Welcome in. It is day 52, and you're speaking with the Meeples Champion. And today we're going to jump right to the table. We're bringing out one of my older but more classic and favorite games, and that game is Lords of Waterdeep. Lords of Waterdeep is an amazing idea because it took the concept of Dungeons and Dragons and said, for those of you who aren't into the idea of sitting around a table and not really doing anything but imagining, while somebody else really is the one rolling dice and telling you what to do, well, telling you what's happening for the story around you, this is going to bring that concept to a board game. And it's not going to be a work-together board game. You're all competing. You're all adventurers fighting on this board in a worker placement style. You're collecting missions. You're going out there and collecting adventurers to fight on the missions. As you complete them, you're slowly getting more and more points, but you also have specialties depending on if you're the thief or if you're a rogue, if you're a warrior, and those specialties allow it so that certain types of adventures score better for you. And by the end of the game, people know what generic points you have. They know what points you have if they're paying attention in resources. They know what you have when it comes to having completed adventures. But what they don't know is, what was your special hidden ability? What were you actually out there as a fighter, as a warrior, as a thief? Did you give enough information for us to figure out how you were scoring bonus points? Hopefully you're paying attention, you know what that is, and you know where you are, but you might not. It's a great game, and I want to jump right into it off the bat with the art. The art is amazing. They do such a good job of the box selling the concept of Dungeons & Dragons, which right off the bat says you're getting a load of people in, because if you like Dungeons & Dragons, this will grab your eyes. And if you've always been kind of interested by the idea of it, but you didn't want to play that style game, you now have a board game yelling at you, D&D. It's such a good marketing idea, and I really love the art here. The cards, the board, everything sells this theme, and it really envelops you. And when you pull this game out, I mean, this was, for a few years there, was my favorite game. Now, you're talking about some time ago, but I've been playing games for 15 years. Your favorite holds on for a while, but things will get toppled. You know, we're right now in the possible changing of guard, as I've been a fan of Clank for the last 4 or 5 years, my favorite, and Dune Imperium is starting to really edge it out. Azul Queen's Garden is on it too. But when you talk about 10 years ago, there was a few years there where this was my number one game. I absolutely had to play it as often as I could. It was a game I was playing minimum once a month, if not 2-3 times a month. If I was at home with my sisters, we were playing it multiple times on a weekend. If I was with my friends, we were pulling it out at least once or twice a game night for the month. So I think that this is definitely one that the art sold me. I love it. Thumbs up. But let's now jump into the components. The components are primarily the board and the pieces that are all cardboard. Fantastic. Nothing's worn in the past 10 years. You've got your little wooden meeples and your wooden resources, or the resources really being your other adventurers. There's the question about the design. I like the meeple design, but the extra resources, essentially going and saying, hey, I'm getting a warrior, I'm getting a priest, I'm getting, all these different types of they're just blocks. I think it works fine. And the reason it works fine is because in this game, you are really trying to identify yourself, and then you're sending these people out. Could you have gone with an upgraded resource? Yes, but that would have come at a much bigger cost. And I think that this game already, as we're going to get into in a minute, has a big cost. And I think they chose the right direction of go after the right resources. Let's get those cardboard resources for the money and for your faction when you're putting something on a building. And things like that are really good. Let's get the cards really well designed. And let's get your individual meeples really well designed. But let's not worry about the extra pieces. Just need it to be able to be used. I'm fine with that. You have to know where it is that you cut that line at, and I think they knew where their line was, and I think it matches up with what I would expect. Thumbs up on the components. The price. This is a $60 game. This has been a $60 game for many years. It is packed inside of this box. It is a heavy box. You're talking about building tiles. You're talking about a board. You're talking about, hundreds of these little blocks. You're talking about your meeples. You're talking about your cards. You're talking about your money. There is a lot going on here. It's got plenty in there. There's plenty of game. $60 is very much worth it. You're going to get your plays in. If you like a worker placement, this is going to be in your top 5. This is still probably right on the edge of my top 5 for worker placements. And if you're talking about a pure worker placement, a game that works primarily as we're 70-80% worker placement, it's one of the best in the world, in my opinion. So yes, this is 100% in for the price. Thumbs up. Difficulty. I don't think it's difficult. I think the game's pretty straightforward. You set everything up, and it's a pretty simple setup. The board itself, the inside of the box is really well put together where most of the pieces stay there. It's all designed so that that's set to go. You only have to pull out your little sheet with what you put on there for your pieces, and then the board, which just puts out the cards. And that's it. Outside of that, everything else is really staying in here. So difficulty comes in as, all right, well, what am I doing? Well, you can pick where you're going to go for your beginning spots for when you're doing your worker placement, and you can collect. I'm going to collect my different types of resources, aka your adventurers, or I'm going to collect more adventures to go on, or I'm going to collect extra cards I can use to activate. It's not like you have something that on your first turn is going to destroy you. You're not going to make a choice in those first few turns that are going to mess your game up. But I do think that there is a lot of, maybe you play the first game and you know how to get to the end, and then you get there and you score and you go, oh, wow, we played a 5-player game and it was like 112 to like 90s, 80s, and I had like 34 points. That could happen. You could get wrecked, but I think you'll enjoy the way getting there. And with that, you'll start to strategize and figure out how the game works and figure out how your opponents play and figure out how to adapt. And maybe on your second play, you'll end up being like, well, I still was in last place, but this time I was 81 and another guy was 84 and I was right with the last place area fight. And then by the third or fourth game, you start really melding into that. We can compete. It's worth it. You're enjoying it. You're not losing horribly and having a bad time. You don't feel like you're losing. You're losing in those first couple games and having a blast. And that's where the difficulty to me is a thumbs up, because you enjoy the ride. And if you can enjoy the ride, you'll eventually get to the point of enjoying the ride and actually competing. So then, replayability. As I mentioned, I used to play this all the time. If you're new into the gaming area and you're looking to jump into that, beginner level, yeah, you could pick this up, and I think it's something you could try to play for the beginners. But I think more realistically is that a mediocre gamer is going to bring it in, and it's going to add that next level of being able to play a game and say, I want to play it right away again. So for me, that's big, and it definitely is one that you can get to your table at least once a month. Thumbs up. Keys to victory, boatloads. Do you want the buildings? Do you want to make buildings and be getting points from that? People paying you points. Are you after the resources? Are you trying to make the different big cards so that you're getting 25 points? Are you going for a whole bunch of little ones because it's bonuses and you're getting bonus points? There are loads of ways to do it. No way is better than the others. They're always changing game to game. Thumbs up there. And then finally, is it unique? I have not seen another game touch this when it comes to its design, its theme, its ability of how the game runs, getting out those adventurers, getting out those cards. Is there games that replicate pieces? Yes. But this experience and this overall feel of a game mechanic, I just don't feel like there's a game I can put next to it and say, here's a clear cut, pick this one instead of that one. This game stands alone. And if I'm in the mood for this game, there's not really another game that's going to fit that for me. So I'm giving a thumbs up on the unique. Well, overall, what do I think? I think this is a must play. I don't think it's a must own, but I do think you should give it a play and then decide from there. You may decide that this isn't a friend's collection, you don't need it for yourself, but I do feel like this is one you can get to the table with your game group, with your friends, with that aren't in the game group, with your family. I feel like this is one that can get to the table more often than you might think. So overall, I really like the game. I recommend you give it a try. This has been day 51. We have been talking about Lords of Waterdeep, and you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, and check down below in the description as I'll be putting in an Amazon link so you can go and try to pick this game up for yourself if you're interested. I'll talk to you all tomorrow.